Hey guys, so Glacial Hammer, I bet you think that this is gonna be a meme build. Glacial Hammer is actually very satisfying to play with and very strong because if you freeze enemies then essentially nothing can hurt you. So this build kind of uses that mentality, just freeze enemies and then you don't need as much defenses. I barely have 4,500 HP, but actually it feels kind of enough. It is a bit sketchier to play in high tier maps. Well, I was farming even up to Guardians, but essentially to be safer you need more damage and more speed. That's why I'm going with the Raider, and also using the Heatshiver to get up to 130% of cold damage as extra fire damage, which does a lot of damage. It's kind of amazing. I think the community is sleeping on this helmet because it's kind of OP. Pretty much doubling, more than doubling your damage. So the build is fast, it got good DPS, even on a low budget sort of. I am using the Frostbreath mace, so it's not an expensive weapon, and the rest of the items are pretty cheap, other than I guess 6 linking body armor. And I am using Ralakesh Impatience boots to just generate charges when I stop and attack, which is very convenient. But yeah, the build is on the squishy side, so it's not gonna be for everyone, and you kind of need to be playing pretty fast. However, like, think about it, I was doing a lot of things and testing what I can freeze, and pretty much everything that can be frozen was frozen almost all the time. There were a couple cases where like dangerous essence, like fully juiced up with all sorts of crazy shenanigans happening, but even essences with like increased cold resistance and element immunity can still be frozen. Although it's not a guaranteed thing, but you're not really gonna die from like one hit. So this build, it does have a tiny bit of evasion and spell suppression, and the rest is just speed and freeze enemies. But it works really well. I was doing also harvest. Harvest, pretty much you freeze everything safe. You also need to invest quite a bit into strike range, get extra strike targets, +1 strike target gloves. I keep forgetting what it's actually called. Strike skills target one additional nearby enemy. You need to get +2 essentially. If you can afford expensive gloves with +2, that's great. You're probably gonna still want Tribal Fury to get another +1 strike target, and you're also gonna want a strike range, and then you're also gonna want the mastery, attack mastery, which gives strike skills which target additional enemy can do so from 30% further away, which essentially means those extra strike targets can reach enemies from further away, and that just adds range because strike skills really need attack speed and it needs range. Actually, there are two very important things about Glacial Hammer. Every third successive strike freezes enemies as though dealing 400% more damage. Combine that with Fruitless and it's pretty easy to freeze. But even cooler thing hidden in the skill description is, if an enemy is frozen and is less than 1/3 life, they will shatter when hit by Glacial Hammer. Essentially, this is like a better Culling Strike than Slayer's Culling Strike. It kills enemies at below 33% of their HP. But this only works for 9 unique enemies. However, the scariest monsters are usually rares with a lot of arch nemesis like Essence, stuff like that, not bosses. So this culling at 33% HP is very nice for mapping. I don't have expeditions, and so my fire damage does not contribute to freeze, but I'm still doing enough damage to freeze. I can freeze enemies up to 141 million ailment threshold, but this is like if I hit the maximum damage roll, and this is only for 0.3 seconds. And also you cannot fully slow down uber bosses, you can still freeze them, so you're still gonna be getting 100% cold damage as extra fire from the helmet, because you still apply the freeze but we are still allowed to move. Essentially it's like, imagine bosses wearing Calm's roots. It's pretty relaxing playstyle. You go in, smash enemies, everything freezes. One bad thing is Glacial Hammer lost both of its threshold jewels, so you still need melee splash support gem, and for leveling until you get plus extra strike targets you're gonna be using Ancestral Call. I started leveling with this as soon as I could, and the damage was like really good. As soon as you put on this helmet, damage is amazing. And I am using Trinity. It's like very easy to use Trinity if you don't have any like additional cold as extra or physical as extra something. It essentially just splits the damage between cold and fire quite equally. And as you can see in this POV, I'm actually doing 1 million average hit damage, but this is with the focus mode, and I have 84% effective critical strike chance because I am using the focus mode on the belt, which gives me lucky crit. And you can actually still tweak this build and get more damage. Like, if I can get 6.3 million DPS with like this kind of base weapon and pretty cheap items, then those who can invest more can definitely squeeze out many times more. And yes, you can do as a berserker, But here's the thing, speed alone does not make you freeze better. What makes you freeze better is hitting harder with a single hit that does cold damage. Unless you use Expedition's End. Like if you want to go completely ham on freezing, use Expedition's End. But I really wanted that crit chance higher, and Expedition's End doesn't really give damage, it just helps you freeze. And there are still many cases where you cannot, well, hit all the enemies at the same time to freeze them, so you're still not gonna be safe all the time. So use this like a blueprint how to build Glacial Hammer, I guess, and improve upon this, or just copy paste this and it will work just fine up to tier 16 maps farming. The gardens and bigger bosses are gonna be a bit of a struggle, definitely, but it's still doable. I was able to kill Searing Exarch, not without dying. Well, essentially it's not really a bossing build per se. You can turn this into bossing build, but because you cannot lock endgame bosses in place, which would completely trivialize it, you cannot do that, so you're not really gonna be safe. So you either have to get proper defenses like more evasion, more physical mitigation, I don't know, more maximum resistances, stuff like that, if you want to push this to like uber bosses. But then again, would you really want to do uber bosses with this? Like you cannot freeze completely, so it kind of loses its specialty. My items are nothing really special, just getting damage where I can. But there are a couple important things to note. You do want 100% avoidance, elemental ailment avoidance, because this raider is quite easy to do that. And you essentially just need a tiny bit, so I chose to get that on the shield. I just got fractured shield and then crafted attack speed, some life, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You may need accuracy. I do not have like amazing accuracy. I have only 3000, almost 3100 accuracy, which is a bit on the low side because some elusive enemies, well, you're not gonna have 100% hit chance. But this is level 90, and actually I did tweak the path of building a bit, shuffled around a couple passive points. Like you're probably not gonna need this, you can get more somewhere else. You can actually go here, this one gives a lot of damage, you can get an extra endurance, frenzy charge, you can get more accuracy here. This is for like level 92. Another thing, it's a bit conditional because I linked Vortex with the Bone Shield. I don't really like this setup, but it's kind of the simplest and I don't want to think too much. Sometimes I'm gonna have a bit more damage when other times it's not a big deal. By the way, I am using Impossible Escape, allows me to allocate passive points without traveling to them from around Ancestral Bond. It's very cheap, I think I paid like 30 years, and it's very efficient for maces. You get big life nodes, you unfortunately cannot reach this one, but you can still get this if you need. And then you get the crit multi nodes, and then accuracy and ally damage nodes, which works extremely well with this. So it's very efficient to get this, and it is cheap. I also do have Watchers, I believe. I wanted to get blind on hit jewel, but I only have 2 jewel sockets, so I don't have much room. And Watcher's Sight just flat cold damage while affected by hatred. It does give more. The flat damage gives more than increased cold damage while affected by hatred. Obviously, if you can get crit, that's even better. If you can get like double Watcher's Eye or double prop Watcher's Eye, that's even better. Important things are increased effect of non-damaging ailments, get cold mastery, increase freeze duration on enemies. Like this is not like very efficient to take because half of your damage is fire, so getting cold penetration isn't that great. But you still get freeze duration on enemies, which is pretty important, and I would recommend getting this early on. Same for the increased effect of non-damaging ailments. And also I think I just rushed down this path and then went this way straight to the Tribal Fury. While leveling, I did not want to use Melee Splash and Ancestral Call, so I just used Ancestral Call at the start and used the Melee Splash gloves, which are Meganor's. These Meganor's gloves give you a splash, but it's very annoying to have knockback, so you're gonna want to replace them as soon as you can. As soon as you can get +1 strike target gloves and get Tribal Fury, you're gonna want to switch and then just use Melee Splash support gem instead of Ancestral Call. And then strike skills which target additional enemies can do so from 30% further away. That's also very important. And yeah, the rest is just icing on the cake essentially. Another thing how to get more critical strike chance is the spell suppression mastery. Critical strike chance is increased by chance to suppress spell damage, and this build has 100%, so essentially for 1 point I get 100% increased critical strike chance, also very nice. And I am using Assassin's Mark on hit, and also precision increases the accuracy which you do need, and critical strike chance. Blood Rage gives a bit more attack speed. I still could min-max this more, like Hell of Ice is not even without quality, it's like level 19. Some of the gems I believe also did not have quality, or maybe I added, yeah, Multi-Strike. Multi-Strike quality is not important because it increases physical damage, which isn't very important. I am using Awaken Cold damage. Does not need to be Awakened, you can just use level 20, quality 20, added cold, it's not a big difference. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I'm already playing the different build. I'm playing this Soul Eater Cleave. Maybe I'll include some clips. I don't know if I recorded anything. It gets kind of nutty. I keep like getting distracted and start talking about the other build, like getting sidetracked too much. Essentially, the next build will be Cleave Soul Eater. If you don't want to wait for that video, you can come check out my streams on twitch.tv/Woolfio. I will be playing Soul Eater for like next 3 days maybe. We'll see how fast I get bored of it, and gonna be testing a lot of skills. I already made a couple of videos with the Soul Eater if you wanna see that. So for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.